Hey, Bruce Naylor, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of speculate what Sony will do with the successor to the AX53. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to call it the Sony AX73. And that's because they had the 33, then they jumped to the 53, add 20 more, and you get the 73. It's probably not going to be called that, but let's just, for the sake of this video, call it the AX73. And so I put together a wish list of things that I would like to see in the successor, trying to keep in mind that Sony already has their consumer Handycams, which the AX53 is marketed as a point-and-shoot 4K camera. Then they have their prosumer line, starting with the Sony AX or FDR-AX700, and then you have, I think it's called the NX80, and then there's a PWX, PXW, I don't recall, the 90, which are all in their really prosumer to professional range of cameras. Then they have the really high-end stuff, which we're not going to cover in this video. And so Sony's kind of walking a fine line there because the AX53 is sort of on the cusp between consumer and prosumer. So a few prosumer things, such as a built-in headphone jack, the ability to individually do some individual control, or I should say some manual control of the camera, which is not necessarily what the market I think they were aiming for really might have a lot of interest in. It's just in that kind of a weird spot where professionals seriously look at the AX53 as a B-roll camera, and even taking professional quality 4K videos with it. Because, by the way, I not only talk the talk, I walk the walk. This video is being shot on the Sony AX53. Sony has to be very careful to protect their higher-end prosumer cameras by being careful what features to include and not include in the successor to the AX53. So first we're going to start talking about the optics of the camera. Now currently it's got the Zeiss Sonar T lens on here, 26.8 millimeters to like 539 or 536 millimeter, 35 millimeter equivalent lens. Very nice zoom range, decently wide enough that you can use it in more of a close-up situation, but yet give you a lot of great zoom. And of course, you have that beautiful 5-axis image stabilization. He has some wonderful stuff with the optics in the current camera. The sensor is a 1/2.5-inch sensor, and that is the that's a CMOS Exmor, I think it's pronounced, sensor. And I would very much like to see that they at least upgrade the sensor to the 1-inch sensor that's typically found in the RX100, say the RX100 Mark VI. This would give us, of course, better shallow depth of field, better low light performance. Will they do it? This is what I wish for. Will they do it? I really don't think so. I think they'll probably still stick with that 1/2.5-inch sensor in the next generation. As far as any other changes to the optics, I personally wish it was a little bit on the wide side, maybe a 24 millimeter as opposed to 26.8. But I think they're going to just kind of, I think the optics in general will probably stay pretty close to what they're at right now with the AX53, including the sensor. Yeah, we'll see probably some type of upgrade to the sensor. But I don't think we're going to see anything radical as far as changes to the optics in this camera, and the successor will include. One thing that the semi-professionals and so forth and a lot of people are asking for is 60 frames per second at 4K. Because of where they're at with their semi-pro cameras, which none of which shoots 4K 60 frames a second, I almost can guarantee you that that's not going to be in the next generation of the AX53, or let's call it the AX73. I think that it's still going to be a max of 30 frames per second in 4K. Now let's talk about autofocus just for a minute. Now the autofocus is actually quite good on the AX53, but it definitely can be improved, and I think that this will happen. I think that Sony will introduce the hybrid autofocus on the AX73, which is a combination of phase detection and contrast based detection. So contrast gives you the really nice speed, and the phase detection gives you really good accuracy. And for example, on their prosumer line, you can even set the depth of the autofocus for fast movement and so forth. And I think that will definitely be happening on the AX73. I think they're going to bring that over as a new feature to the AX73. I think what we're going to see is quite a few new features brought over to the AX73. And of course, as I mentioned, the hybrid autofocus. But I think we're also going to see, I'm not sure how Sony will market this, but something like Instant HDR. They're going to bring the hybrid log gamma profile to the AX73 because, you know, they market this camera 4K for that. Consumer goes, I just got to have 4K. I don't know why, but I got to have 4K. And now they're hearing the same thing about HDR. No big trick to bring it over to the AX73. So I think, yes, I think that that's probably definitely going to happen, that Sony will bring HDR capabilities to the AX73. I also think Sony is going to modify their menu and the way that you access the features of the camera. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement in the menu system, and maybe they'll do with what like Canon did with the SL2 and have a more simplified mode. But Sony definitely needs to improve the menu system on there. We're not going to get the same type of menus that we are in the semi-pro models. I think they're still going to rely totally on touch-based on the LCD, as opposed to using the little thumb dial or jog dial that they have on like the AX700, the NX80. So I think Sony will definitely revise the menus on the new Sony AX73. Now remember, I don't know what it's going to be called. We're just calling that to give it a name, the successor to the AX53. Picture profiles. This is going to be a more advanced kind of thing. But right now, basically what Sony has is like for scenes, and they're kind of amateurish and I'll say cartoonish, and not really, if you want to be more in control of the camera and the look of the video coming out, maybe you want to learn color grading, you want to shoot in a flat profile, it's possible that they'll bring over some picture profiles to the AX73, some that are available, say in the RX100 or in their prosumer line. But I see that as a possibility. I'm giving that about 50-50 odds. But I do believe you will get the hybrid log profile for the hybrid log gamma for HDR. Now, one of the big gripes I have about the AX53 that if I manually set the white balance, or if I use the Cinematone picture profile, I lose face tracking with the autofocus. I kid you not. You can't control that. If they go with the hybrid autofocus or just plain phase detection, I believe that that problem will go away. So I'm hoping to see that you will be able to have face detection without worrying about, you know, oh, I can't use auto white balance or I can't use Cinematone. Cinematone may not even be necessary, or there might be an enhanced version of it. I'm not really sure, but I think that problem will be addressed in the next iteration of the AX53. Okay, for prosumers who pick up an AX53 as a, you know, B-roll camera, as a secondary camera, and expect to have full manual control of the camera, you're gonna be quite disappointed. What I wish for in the AX73 is the ability to, at bare minimum, be able to purchase some type of upgrade that would allow me to have full control over the ISO, or gain as they call it, the aperture and the shutter speed. Give me the ability to have full control over that, even if I have to pay, you know, some type of premium to get that, because this is a camera, I think, that many people that want to learn videography it's within their budget, and let them grow into it a little bit, but still keep enough differentiation, I think that's the word, between the consumer and their prosumer line, but give you that ability to have that additional control, even if it might be an add-on or a paid download for the firmware. Since this is kind of my wish list, on the physical side of the camera, I really wish there was a way to easily remove the cover over the hot shoe, because I tend to use it with an external microphone as opposed to the built-in microphone, and that cover kind of flops around. I don't really want to risk breaking it, so I wish they had an easy way for just to remove that so you could put on your own microphone and not have that cover on the side, which could, if you had a simple accident, could probably break that cover. Another thing I find kind of irritating is how the LCD acts as a on and off switch for the camera. And I wish there was really an exterior on and off button and I didn't have to deal with that. Do I think that they're going to change that? No, I don't. I think that's going to just be how Sony does things. But this is my wish list, so I hope that they do that. I also wish for a slightly larger LCD. The one on the AX53 is 3-inch. And I would very much like to see the same type of LCD that's on the AX700, 3.5-inch. And just that little extra space could mean a whole lot of difference in composing your shot when you're using grids, when you got all this stuff on the menu. I think it's a no-brainer, but they may want to keep the same exact physical form factor, so that's probably not going to happen. Also, the diopter adjustment on the viewfinder, I find it very lacking. It's very difficult to adjust. You know, I wear glasses. I use it, especially when I'm outside because I don't have ND filters for this camera. No, we're not going to get built-in ND filters either. That's definitely a prosumer thing. Although it would be great if there was an automatic ND filter. That's probably not going to happen on a sub-$1,000 4K camcorder. But I do wish the diopter adjustment would be a little bit easier to use, at least for me. It seems to be, you know, not the easiest thing to adjust. I kind of wish they'd move the location of the headphone jack to a different part of the camera. You know, I'm not sure what they were thinking when they put it front and forward of the lens barrel, but it should be more towards the back of the camera, in my opinion. I'd also like to see on the AX73 to have more variable control on the zooming of the camera as well. And I forgot to mention that the focus by wire, I think, will be improved on the camera. Right now, if you use manual focus on the AX73 or on the AX53, it can take quite a bit of turning on that front lens barrel to, you know, get dialed in. And I'd like to see some improvements on that. And I think there will be in the AX73, or again, whatever Sony calls it. Lastly, on the software side, the Play Memories app, other than start, stop, and zoom in and out, it's about all you can do with it when you're using the AX53. And I would like to see a lot more options to be able to control the camera with that software. It needs a lot of work and improvement to make it truly useful. And I think Sony will upgrade the software. I don't know if on the next generation, but yeah, I think that that's going to happen in the near future. In the end, I think that the AX73, or whatever they're going to call it, will be a fairly worthy upgrade over the AX53, keeping in mind, of course, that they can't step really on that prosumer line. You know, those that start around $1,800 to, you know, $2,400, and they're not going to do that. But I do think they'll bring some of those features, including HDR, phase detection, or hybrid autofocus, and other improvements to this camera to make it a worthy successor, to make it a worthy upgrade. And I think consumers are going to want the HDR capability in recording. They're pumping out the 4K TVs with HDR. They're going to want that, and so I think that's definitely coming. So I would like to know in the comments down below what you would like to see out of the successor to the AX53. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Bruce Naylor, until the next one.